Hey everyone, Felix from Nintendo Life here, and welcome to Nintendo News You Missed, the news show where I take you through last week's Nintendo news in a little bite-sized format, just going over them quite quickly with a little comment here or there. And for those of you watching last week, thank you so much for all the positive engagement that, you gave the video. There were so many nice comments that expressed how they liked the format, and that is why I'm bringing it back this week, and hopefully we can keep doing it in the weeks that follows. For any of you who don't know, we will be going on our website, nintendolife.com, which has loads of great news articles, and then just go through the most interesting ones starting Tuesday, September 2nd, all the way until today. But so that you don't have to wait until today's news, at the end of the video, we will start with today's news now. So right now, there's one article that I thought was worth going over at the time of this recording, and that is Nintendo wins $2 million lawsuit against MIG distributor. Ollie Reynolds writes as follows. Nintendo has won yet another lawsuit in its ongoing battle against piracy on the Switch and Switch 2, this time against MIG Switch distributor Ryan Daly and the modded hardware website. Updated on the 5th of September 2025, the court document confirms that Daly is required to pay Nintendo a total of $2 million in damages. Thanks, Engadget. In addition, a permanent injunction has been entered against Daly, preventing him from engaging in any activities that might be linked to the selling, marketing, or promotion of piracy devices such as the MIG Switch and MIG Dumper. So yeah, yet another win for Nintendo against piracy with the Switch. I mean, it makes sense why Nintendo keeps winning these because, well, it is piracy of stuff that is still being sold today. Ollie also says Nintendo has been relentless in pursuit against piracy in recent years, with a major Switch 2 ROM site, NSW2U, being seized by the FBI as a part of a law enforcement operation, while also taking full possession of Ryujin's ROM site. And yeah, that was today's news. Of course, there's still more articles that can come out after the time of this recording, and that is why going forward, we will also be taking articles from the previous Monday, like stuff that came out after the recording of said news episode in this video. So yeah, now I'm going back to Monday, and we're just seeing if there is anything that we missed in the last video, anything that came out. And now with that done, let's go back to Tuesday, the 2nd of September, and here we have quite a lot of stuff to go through, so let's get cracking. The first article we're taking a look at on Tuesday is by Liam Doolin, and it's Nintendo Music adds Fire Emblem Awakening soundtrack in a new update. Yeah, there's not really that much more else to it. Nintendo keeps doing this in a weekly release type thing, which is a bit weird. I wish there was just, all their music on there. Boop, now it's there, and then they could release the new games as they come and go. But, well, not go. Well, unless you are Mario 3D All-Stars. Moving on, strong Final Fantasy Tactics sales may lead to more remasters and sequels. Ollie writes, in a new interview with Inverse, game director Kazutoyo Mahiro stated that if the upcoming launch does well, then this could potentially open the door to remasters of both Final Fantasy Tactics Advance and Final Fantasy Tactics A2 Grimoire of the Rift, along with brand new sequels. Here is what Mahiro had to say. If the Ivalice Chronicles do well, that's good for the fans, they can enjoy it, but at the same time, it shows the business viability of the strategy RPG genre, so that could potentially open the door for doing something with Final Fantasy Tactics Advance or A2, or maybe even sequels and new titles as well. I think I speak for everyone who's worked on the original Final Fantasy Tactics and is working on the Ivalice Chronicles as well. We'd really like to see it happen. Yeah, I was looking also at the comments of this article, and it seems people are a bit split on this. On one end, well, it makes sense that they want the games to do well because, it is a business and they want everything to go around. And of course, if this game does good, then they can have more games, they can do more remasters. On the other hand, people are also a bit like, oh, they're just kind of guilt-tripping us into buying this game, so if we want one of the other games, yeah, we have to buy this one to make it happen, which I guess I can see is like, they're like, hey, come and buy this, and if it does well, then we'll make more. I think it makes perfect sense, but I can also kind of understand some of the people being like, hey, don't, like, I'll buy the game if I want to, and then you're Square Enix. It's a massive company, so I think that's why it leaves a bit of a sour taste in some of the people's mouths. Moving on, FC26 on Switch 2 on parity, basically, with PS5, according to EA Sports Dev. Here is what PJ O'Reilly had to say. We know that the folks behind big AAA sports game releases, and especially yearly ones where they really have to scrape the barrel and make up new words like true motion and things of this nature to keep us interested, like to engage the pre-release hype train. It's part of life, it's part of nature, it keeps the soul warm and the planet spinning. However, speaking to Game Rant a few days ago, thanks Nintendo Everything, EA Sports FC dev Andreas Wilsdorf has been rather unexpectedly verbose in his claims on just how nicely his latest football game is running on Nintendo's new machine, to the point that it almost feels a little too good to be true, especially when considering how some of the game's beta and show floor demo players seem to be finding things. And here is his quote. "In general, the Switch 2 was really exciting. Being on the platform with FC this year, the performance is what really excites us. It is on parity, basically, with what we see on PS5 and Xbox. Again, it's a handheld console, but the first time I played it, I was really impressed. Then we also saw it working on the simulation and the times it takes to simulate the season and so on, which was very, very close to what we saw in PlayStation and Xbox dev kits. That's really impressive." Now, I've actually gone hands-on with this game when I went to Gamescom, and of course that's not the final build or anything like that, but I don't know what they're saying here. It's on parity, basically. Okay, it's 30 FPS, at least from what I could tell. I recorded some footage and then counted the frames there. And so already there, it's half the frame rate. And it also just looks a lot worse. Again, it is a handheld, but it did not feel the same as when I'm playing on my PlayStation 5. I've played quite a lot of FIFA, well, FC, EA Sports FC 20. I'm still calling it FIFA, I'm sorry. And yeah, I wasn't very impressed with what I played at Gamescom. Maybe it gets better when it comes out, but I feel like this is just maybe false advertising. I don't feel like it's on parity at all. It is still vastly lacking compared to on other consoles. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds scores free single-player demo this month. So what this is essentially that Sonic Racing CrossWorlds had an open network test where you could kind of try it out, but that is now closed. But Sega has now come out and said that there will be a demo for the game sometime mid-September. They've not given a date, but yeah, this will be an offline only type of thing. So you can't race online and try that out like in the test work, network test work. I mean, I guess that's a word. And this next one is kind of a sad thing. Is that Louvre says au revoir. I don't know how to say that. Au revoir. Au revoir. Au revoir. Au revoir. Louvre says au revoir to Nintendo 3DS audio guides. Alana Hakes writes, "It's official. The Louvre has finally laid its Nintendo 3DS audio guides to rest." Reported by French newspaper Le Monde, the world-renowned museum ended the service on the 1st of September 2025. It originally announced that it would be retiring the novel museum guides sometime in September. So yeah, it is of course very sad to see. It was a very novel thing that they had this specific like Nintendo 3DS software, so you can go around and learn about stuff in the museum with your 3DS. I've actually been in the Louvre a couple of times, but I don't recall seeing the 3DS there, or maybe I was too young to just notice that sort of thing. But yeah, it is a little bit of a sad day. It also makes everyone who could potentially get the game somehow a very valuable trading asset, because yeah, it's going extinct. Anyway, we're moving on to Wednesday the 3rd of September, and here we're starting off with another Final Fantasy Tactics news article. Here, it is that Final Fantasy Tactics devs had to lean on fans to recover original source code. In the article by Ollie Reynolds, he has multiple quotes from the director, one of them saying, "We would basically take the data from the Japanese version and overwrite the English data on it, and when we wanted to do another language, we would just keep stacking on top and overwriting. So we kind of went on the journey to find the original version, and we were using whatever resources we had available to us. So all those different versions would be analyzing what was there to try and find what we felt was the original. On top of that, we actually had to go to different websites made by fans and look for data there, because we know you guys do such a good job at keeping all of that up to date." So actually, yeah, they kind of just say, hey, we actually had to rely on people like ROMs and stuff like that on the internet. It's kind of nice that they're actually really open about that. And, you know, that just means, well, for one thing, it's a bit weird that they didn't preserve this like properly. You know, I know that from myself that sometimes I would be lazy and stuff like that and not save a project properly, just kind of editing in the same Photoshop document. And yeah, well, luckily the fan community had their backs. If you ever mess up, well, the fans got your back because, yeah, they will preserve anything and everything. Moving on, we have an article about, well, we got our first gameplay reveal of 007 First Light. And now we know that it launches March 2026 on Switch 2. So, yeah, of course, the gameplay was not Switch 2 footage, but I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about, I actually got to go, well, it was hands-off, but at Gamescom, I got to see essentially this gameplay reveal, but before anyone else, and it was this really, really cool, like, big setup where it was like an old school, well, maybe not old school, but it was like a cinema. And you went in there and they had lots of drinks. They had like baristas out front. It was really, really impressive. And I will say that this game, yeah, I think it looks very good. I need to see more, and I don't know how they're going to pull it off on Switch 2, but it looks really great. It looks fun. Yeah, oh, this next one could excite all of you Resident Evil fans. Now, this is a rumor, but Resident Evil Requiem could be heading to the Switch 2. Resident Evil Requiem is due for release on the 27th of February 2026, and according to Dusk Golem, who has been known to leak Resident Evil news prior to official announcements, the game is supposedly being planned to release on both the Switch 2 and the PlayStation 4. Here's what he had to say on X. Thanks, Nintendo Everything. Quote, Resident Evil Requiem should be releasing in PlayStation 4 and Nintendo Switch 2. Seems this was kind of known behind the scenes and in the grapevine. I'm not the first person to say this publicly, just cooperating. But if the question is it is happening or not, the answer pretty much is yeah, it is happening. Again, take this with a grain of salt, but that is quite exciting. Now, I don't like Resident Evil. I got to try it a little bit with Biohazard, and yeah, I am a little scared boy when I play those games. And well, it's not that I hate horror. I've certainly hated it more in the past. I've been playing a game called Night Manor in UFO 50, and that's been really fun. But yeah, it's just a little too much, a little too gory. Oh yeah. You guys have fun with that. Anyway, let's move on to the next article, which is Everybody's Golf's spiritual successor, Easy Come Easy Golf, gets a surprise 60 FPS update. Alana Hicks has reported that Easy Come Easy Golf, the game from the former Everybody's Golf developers Clap Hands, has just received a surprise free update on Switch, which include Switch 2 support and a 60 FPS mode. Thanks to James McWhiter for the tip. So yeah, this update adds better load times, 1080p for the Switch 2 display, and yeah, a toggle with 30 FPS and 60 FPS, which is, well, it's really cool when they go back and update older games. Well, this came out in 2002. No, not 2000. This came out in 2022. And yeah, there's more games I wish would get Switch 2 upgrades, especially to use the mouse mode, which I've just not been using enough. Obviously, that's because Nintendo's not giving out Switch 2 dev kits that easily. So I guess we'll just, over the next coming years, we're going to see that more when maybe Stardew Valley will get a mouse mode update or stuff like Return to Monkey Island. You know, point-and-click games, strategy games, simulation games that would really benefit from that sort of stuff. Let's move on to Thursday, September 4th. Here we have Square Enix details Octopath Traveler Zero's Switch 2 performance and resolution. Jim Norman has reported the Switch 2 version of the game will run at up to 60 FPS with a 1920 1080p resolution. The Switch, on the other hand, keeps things slightly lower and will play it up at 30 FPS, 1280 720p. For those wondering, this puts the Switch 2 version on the same level as the Octopath Traveler Zero PS4 release. The PS5 and Xbox Series X will muster up to 120 FPS at 3840 2160 resolution. Yeah, I'm very excited for this game. Don't know if I'll play it on my Switch or the PS5 since it just seems to run better there. Of course, you have the luxury of taking it with you on the go. But I am very excited to see how this whole town building mechanic all plays out. I haven't really seen any previews or anything like that, but I do really love Octopath 1 and 2, so I'm sure to also check this one out the 4th of December. This next article is one that I thought was a bit funny. Pour one out for these 6 brave games launching on Silksong Day. This one is just highlighting 6 games that came out the same day, which, well, got completely overshadowed by another game made by the Australian Team Cherry team. I'll just quickly go through them. So we have Adventure of Samsara, we have Campervan Make It Home, we have Dark DT2, Fling to the Finish, Splatterbot, and Mandragora Whispers of the Witch Tree. Now, I just thought this was really nice of Ollie to put this together to kind of just, showcase and highlight these games that got completely overshadowed by Silksong, which, well, I've been thoroughly enjoying my time with it. And, well, the next article is about how much people really wanted this, and it's the Switch eShop and Steam are buckling under the weight of Silksong. So if you were trying to get Silksong on, well, the launch time, which was 4 p.m. summertime, Central Europe summertime, then, well, you couldn't. Actually, every storefront basically just couldn't handle, because there was no pre-orders or anything, so you had to go in and buy the game on the store at the same time, and everything just crashed. I made a little video about it where, well, while I was waiting for it to download, it was just, I think it was like 20 minutes past. Took 20 minutes before we could get through, at least on the eShop. So that was crazy. The Steam was even longer. And fun fact, that little video actually made it on the Australian news. Believe it or not, I have it right. I'll play a little clip right here.
52,000 people turned up for the Adelaide Crows final against Collingwood, but that wasn't the biggest crowd getting behind an Adelaide-based team last night.
There's simply so many people trying to get this game right now. It's absolutely madness.
The game these people are trying to buy is Hollow Knight Silksong, produced by local Adelaide developers Team Cherry.
Yeah, I didn't expect that when I was making the video, but I thought that was pretty cool. Thanks to the people who shared that. I got tagged in Blue Sky posts and also got some Discord DMs from people in Australia. So much appreciated. Now, also on Thursday, while we were all playing Silksong, we got an update to the Nintendo Switch Mature N64 app, which expands with another title, and that was Forsaken 64. This title joins the other acclaimed titles Shadow Man, Turok Dinosaur Hunter, Turok 2 Seeds of Evil, and Rare's Perfect Dark. So there's not a whole lot going on there, but it is still cool to see this game. I mean, I must be completely honest, I didn't know about this game before. Shocker. Boy born in the 2000s doesn't know of a 90s game. But I also wanted to highlight another little, this was, so a couple of months ago, there was apparently like a leak. Well, a leak. Nintendo posted some footage on the N64, like NSO app, and there was some blurred games in the background, and people identified these pictures, as you can see here. Risa identified that, ooh, this looks like, well, one of the games that we just got, which was Forsaken 64. And next to Forsaken, we had Glover, Donkey Kong 64, Rayman 2, and the original Super Smash Bros. Now, you might be thinking, well, this Forsaken is not in the normal N64 app, it's in the Mature app. And yeah, there's a comment here by Earthbound Benji, which says, well, the fact that this screenshot shows Forsaken in the regular app and not the Mature app means that, at the very least, this build is not intended for the audience to get. So it's still very possible that the other games are there just for the debug or emulation testing purposes and are not intended to be included. So yeah, it doesn't mean that we're getting any of the other games, but it is still cool that people are like, ooh, that blurry image, I know what it is. And then, just figured that out and absolutely smashed it. And the last thing on Thursday is that the Switch Online's GPA app has been updated to version 3.0. Now, this update doesn't add any new games, but it does add stuff like, so it says Nintendo Classics on the icon, and it's also been updated for Switch 2, so in handheld, it's now 1080p and looks nice and crisp. Anyway, let's move on to Friday, September 5th. Stardew Valley's creator has a small voice role in Hollow Knight Silksong. So yes, you can see the credits. You don't have to beat the game because people, well, I don't think they would be able to beat the game that quick, would they? Maybe there's some speedrunners that did that on the first day, I don't know. But in the credits, as you can see here, we have Eric Barone, who voices Lex Pellin. So yeah, that's a fun little Easter egg. There's quite a lot of characters in Silksong, so I'll have to actually go and find that character precisely, and maybe I've already met them, but I can't remember who that is exactly right now. Oh, this next one is also quite interesting. Ubisoft employee explains why Star Wars Outlaws is a game key card. So Star Wars Outlaws is a game key card, and of course that is upsetting to a lot of people because we want those games on the physical cartridges. But over on Blue Sky, as Ollie writes here, Rob Banton, who is the audio architect for Ubisoft's proprietary Snowdrop engine, explained the decision to use game keycards, and it seemingly got nothing to do with the cost. Instead, it's all to do with the disc streaming required for Outlaws open world, with Banton stating that the Switch 2 cartridges simply don't offer the performance needed for Ubisoft to hit its quality target. Quote, Snowdrop relies heavily on disc streaming for its open world environments, and we found the Switch 2 card simply didn't give the performance we needed at the quality target we were going for. I don't recall the cost of the card entering the discussion, probably because it was moot. I think if we'd designed a game for Switch 2 from the ground up, it might have been different. As it was, we'd built a game around the SSDs of the initial target platforms, and the Switch 2 came along a while later. In this case, I think our leadership made the right call. Now, Star Wars Outlaws is out now, and well, people seem quite pleased with how it runs on it, which that's really nice after, you know, the stuff that was shown at PAX, and that wasn't as good. Nice to see that they've improved on it. Now, I think this reason, I mean, I don't make games, but it kind of makes sense. If it didn't run well on the cartridge, you know, they didn't build this on the ground up. Of course, that is a priority. They could have spent more time on this, but the fact is that a lot of people, even though a lot of people do care about game keycards and that whole situation, a lot of people also just want to play the game in digital and stuff. So it was probably for them like weighing up, okay, do we build this from the ground up or what do we do? And they just went for this option, which, well, if you don't like it, you can just not buy the game, and that kind of sends a message, which, well, last week we covered a story about how CD Projekt Red said that 75% of Cyberpunk's initial sales were physical. So yeah, that really surprised me. So maybe it'll also surprise Star Wars Outlaws sales, like the people looking at the sales and be like, oh, maybe we should go for a proper cartridge release next time. Now, this next one is an interesting conversation, and it reads as follows. Quote, I can't afford to give it away for free, end of quote. Silksong's low price is causing devs to reevaluate their own games. So last week we got the really cheap price revealed of Silksong, which was $20, and that's an absolute steal for the kind of game that it is. But it has also made other developers question, wait, is my game then priced too expensive because this is not as big or to the same standard as Silksong? And here we can see a developer here, Basti Art Games, who is making a game called Lone Fungus, and he writes, as a dev making a smaller Metroidvania than Silksong, which I originally thought would be fairly priced at $20, what should I price it now? It'll be a 10 to 15 plus hour game, but it was made by only one person with limited dev time and funds. I can't afford to give it away for free. So the reason I think this is a really interesting conversation is just, well, a lot of people have rightfully also said this is kind of the same situation for when Baldur's Gate came out. And people were like, well, if we can have Baldur's Gate, then why are there all these AAA games coming out at such expensive prices? Yeah, make better games. You know, it kind of set a standard. Well, not standard because there's not really any other game like Baldur's Gate. But like, it's competition. And, well, Silksong is doing the same thing here. It's such a cheap price for such a big, great game that, yeah, I think it's a nice statement by them. Ollie also points out in the article, it's an interesting situation to be sure, but we also think a significant jump in price from the original Hollow Knight to Hollow Knight Silksong would have almost certainly ruffled a few feathers. Given the anticipation around the game along with how few people were involved in its development, we reckon Team Cherry probably made the correct decision regarding price, and I think it was the correct decision as well. It makes sense. Hollow Knight was $15 and now it's a $5 bump to yeah, a much more ambitious game. Imagine if this game wins Game of the Year or just Indie Game of the Year. It's like, ooh, yeah, maybe we shouldn't have these high prices as standard. Yeah, we'll see. But I think it's an interesting conversation. What do you all think? Let us know down in the comments below. We do have one thing on a Saturday, which was that Puzzle Quest Immortal Edition brings Match 3 RPG fun to Switch this month. Puzzle Quest is returning to its roots, with 505 Games and Infinity Plus 2 announcing Puzzle Quest Immortal Edition. This definitive version of the Match 3 RPG classic features brand new content and all previous adventures, and it's arriving on the 18th of September 2025. It'll be available across multiple platforms, including Nintendo Switch. So yeah, that was all the interesting, cool news we had on Saturday. Pretty light day. Sunday was a little better. The first one is Tales of the Shire, a Lord of the Rings game, is updated on Switch. Now, to any of you who don't know, this game launched at an awful state on Nintendo Switch, like really, really bad. I think we gave it, we gave it a 4 out of 10, so not that good. But let's see what they have updated on Nintendo Switch. So yeah, it says that save files, we've made some changes to improve saving stability so that your save files are tucked away safe and sound. It seemed that the spinach seeds weren't too fond of being planted on Switch. We've coaxed them back so that they're ready to sprout when the time is right. The volume in handheld mode has been gently lifted, making it easier to hear all sorts of things. And hobbits became blocked from playing after the game began to stammer, then crashed like a cart with a broken wheel. Not that sort of thing we will take lightly in Bywaters. So yeah, I don't know how many people are playing this. Probably not a lot on Switch after the awful reviews and all that came out. But it is nice that they're doing something. Maybe that's a little bit too late. The damage has been done. I don't know. Maybe they can do a No Man's Sky, but yeah, I guess we'll have to see. Next up, we have more Switch games have received Switch 2 compatibility fixes. Liam Doolan says, following the latest firmware update earlier this week, which bumped the Switch 2 firmware up to 20.4.0, multiple titles are now properly working on the system. Apart from the list in the original story below, here are some other titles that are now fully compatible on Switch 2. So yeah, let's see. We have Guilty Gear XX Accent Core Plus R, Love Clear, Monu, Monster Rancher 1 and 2 DX, Japanese version only, Phantasy Star Online 2 Genesis Cloud, Powerful Pro Baseball 2024-25. So yeah, almost all games work from Switch 1 to Switch 2, but it's still really nice to see that all those games that didn't make it through, that they're getting slowly and surely patched out. And that was all the news from the week. If you enjoyed this show, well, like I said at the start, please make sure to let us know down in the comments. It really means a lot, and you guys are the reason that we're still doing this week, because the reception was just so great. So thank you all so much for that. I was your host, Felix Sanchez, reporting some Nintendo news you missed, and I hope you enjoyed this format once again. Don't forget to check out our lovely Nintendo Life website, which, well, videos like these couldn't be possible without them. So yeah, do give them a check out. There's a link to all of it down in the description below. Stay safe, and we will see you, hopefully, next week for another round of Nintendo news you missed. Felix from Nintendo Life, out.